So, you may have heard about climate protests in the past year where protesters would go to famous works of art and attempt to destroy them as a way to protest big oil companies. Now, even the mere fact that these protesters would use art as their mode of demonstration shows a clear lack of understanding of the place of art in modern society. See, society today is a mess, riddled with economic disparity, racial discrimination, educational gaps, and so much more. The education system is supposed to be what helps this, what educates smarter, wiser, more effective contributors to society, but yet we're still dealing with all these issues and they're seemingly only getting worse. So where's the education system failing us? The US education system heavily focuses on STEM classes, where a staggering 43% of the education system lies, and pays little attention to the arts. Well, at a surface level, this makes sense, as science, technology, engineering, and mathematics all seem like the obvious contributors to societal progress. But what these subjects fail to attune to is humans themselves. The arts directly address the workings of the human soul, but often are trivialized and defunded in the tech industry and in the education system. And that leaves the arts only as a luxury for the wealthy and for the more privileged. New research has shown that the arts prime neural circuitry for a broad range of activities, boosting crucial cognitive and social skills like spoken and written language, focus, self-control, and empathy. In a 2016 study, for example, researchers Christina Zhao and Patricia Kuhl demonstrated that babies exposed to simple melodies in a social setting developed a greater sensitivity to the rhythms of spoken language. More surprisingly, they noted the processing of music was traced not just to the auditory cortex of the infants, but to the prefrontal cortex as well, which is where attention and self-regulation occur. In a TED Talk, Kuhl explained, "We can see that the babies who have been through the music experience have a greater ability to hold attention when that's important and to switch attention when that's necessary. In other words, music is affecting executive function," end quote. Moreover, these weren't even the most surprising developments that researchers discovered. In a major 2019 study, over 10,000 students in Texas were tracked as they participated in arts programs, concluding that they performed better on state writing tests, were better behaved, had more compassion for fellow students, and were even more engaged in schools. The arts also have a very important role to play in the workforce, as we are seeing more disengagement from young people joining the workforce than ever before. A researcher from UCLA, Edward Fisk, wrote this in his book, Champions of Change, The Impacts of the Arts on Learning. Young people who are disengaged from schools and other community institutions are at the greatest risk of failure or harm. Researchers found that the arts provide a reason, and sometimes the only reason, for being engaged with school or other organizations, end quote. The biggest hurdle for the arts and education is currently funding. Funding for education courses in schools is divided into three sectors: federal, state, and grant funding. So how are states funded? This varies, but mostly it's at the discretion of the local school districts. Because of a lack of funding, wealthier districts usually are going to have the more robust art programs. As for federal funding, Congress funded federal assistance for the arts education program at $31 million in 2021. The program funds professional development for arts educators, the development of learning materials, community and national outreach, which expands access to art programs across the nation. Unfortunately, this is not really enough to make a real impact. As for grant funding, nonprofit organizations hold the biggest influence in funding the schools and local art programs. One of the biggest examples of this is the National Endowment for the Arts, which has awarded more than $5.5 billion in funding to bring arts to communities through a variety of grants. Grant funding has proven to be the most effective and generous form of funding for the arts. A huge example of this being Proposition 28 in California, which passed this past November and will provide around $1 billion for arts education in California schools. This proposition was only made possible by private institutions and donors. So herein lies my recommendations. The only way for the arts to make progress in the education system is for private organizations and people of influence to speak up, to make a change on their own until we are able to convince the government to do the same via lobbying or other such methods. The arts are also a crucial part of the Christian faith as it reflects the Creator in the heart of God and resembles how Jesus taught us to live, as displayed through his use of parables. Jesus used complex stories to give us a chance to truly understand what he was trying to teach us. He used the arts as a means to further his work for humanity. This being the case, Christians have a large, if not the largest role to play in this initiative. The arts are not merely a trivial tool to use for fun or entertainment, or even only for those who can afford it. They are crucial for all human progress. Thank you.